Welcome to a journey through the world of ancient curses. From tombs sealed with deadly warnings to mysterious gems that brought misfortune, we uncover 100 chilling facts that mix history, fear, and a touch of science. Stay curious, because the past is more dangerous than you think. Chapter 1. In ancient Egypt, pharaohs' tombs were sealed with curses to protect treasures. Scholars believe the fear was real, but some mummies contained toxic mold that could cause hallucinations or sickness. The curse was both psychological and biological, warning grave robbers. Steal and you may face unseen forces guarding the dead. Ancient security meets science. Chapter 2. The curse of King Tutankhamun haunted explorers after his tomb opened in 1922. Many fell ill or died unexpectedly. Scientists suggest bacterial spores hidden for centuries may have triggered infections. The legend of the curse grew faster than the microbes themselves, turning a historical discovery into a tale of fatal fascination. Chapter 3. Mesopotamian clay tablets record curses against thieves and traitors. Some warnings promised lifelong misfortune or sickness. Researchers note that belief in curses amplified stress, weakening the immune system. Ancient societies combined psychology with superstition, making threats feel deadly even without supernatural power. Chapter 4. The curse of the Hope Diamond allegedly brings tragedy to owners. Some suffered accidents, financial ruin, or personal losses. Scientists argue coincidence plays a role, but the allure of a cursed gem captures imagination. Each story is a mix of history, misfortune, and human fascination with objects carrying dark energy. Chapter 5. In Greece, cursed inscriptions were placed in tombs to summon harm on the living. Called depictions, these spells used lead tablets with names and intentions. Chemical analysis shows some inks contained toxic compounds. Combining written words with real danger, ancient Greeks believed curses were a lethal mix of language and chemistry. Chapter 6. Viking runestones sometimes warned of curses for intruders. Runes carved on stones invoked spirits to protect graves. Modern historians suggest these curses enforced social norms, deterring grave robbers. The blend of artistry, symbolism, and fear created a psychological shield around sacred sites, proving early humans' new mind over matter was powerful. Chapter 7. In medieval Europe, witches were often accused of cursing crops and livestock. While superstition dominated, some plants and fungi used in rituals were toxic, accidentally causing illness. Science reveals accidental poisonings may have inspired stories of magical revenge, turning reality into folklore that terrified entire villages. Chapter 8. The mummy of Ramses II carries warnings of curses to intruders. Tomb paintings depict wrathful gods punishing thieves. Analysis shows ancient tombs were sealed with airtight chambers, creating mold and harmful gases. The combination of belief and real-world danger made these curses convincing without needing magic. Chapter 9. In Japan, ancient scrolls called afuda were used to curse enemies. Written prayers could invoke spirits for protection or harm. Anthropologists suggest the rituals strengthened social control and morality. Even today, the fear of unseen forces continues to fascinate, showing how culture and belief craft invisible boundaries with real emotional impact. Chapter 10. Roman-era curse tablets sometimes demanded revenge on rivals. Archaeologists found these buried under thresholds or graves. Chemical studies indicate some substances could cause skin irritation or poisoning. The tablets reveal a blend of law, superstition, and early chemistry, demonstrating how ancient humans weaponized words alongside minor physical threats. Chapter 11. In ancient Babylon, amulets were used to transfer curses to enemies. Inscribed with tiny symbols, they promised misfortune or illness. Modern studies show these objects sometimes contained heavy metals like lead or copper. The physical danger reinforced belief in magic, proving that superstition and science were unintentionally intertwined in ancient protective practices. Chapter 12. The curse of the Koh-i-Noor diamond haunted royal owners. Some faced political downfall or personal tragedies. Historians suggest stress, paranoia, and high-profile scrutiny amplified misfortune. Humans project meaning onto events, and the diamond's dark reputation made coincidences feel like supernatural punishment, blending legend with human psychology. Chapter 13. Ancient Celtic warriors believed in battlefield curses. Inscribed stones and ritual markings warned invaders of doom. Archaeologists find traces of toxic plants nearby, hinting at intentional use of chemicals. Fear, superstition, and science combine to create real deterrence against enemies, proving curses were strategic as well as mystical. Chapter 14. In Peru, Inca tombs contained figurines and inscriptions warning of curses. Toxic plants, used in burial rituals, may have harmed intruders. These curses were psychological traps as much as physical ones, showing that ancient civilizations understood fear could be as potent as poison. Chapter 15. Ancient Chinese tombs often featured guardian inscriptions to curse thieves. Some chambers trapped gases from decaying organic matter, causing nausea or illness. The science of decomposition made curses believable, intertwining natural danger with mystical warnings. Protecting tombs became both a spiritual and practical challenge. Chapter 16. In Egypt, some papyri contained written curses meant to harm rivals. Spells often referenced gods, but the real power came from the victim's belief. Studies show placebo and nocebo effects explain why some curses seemed effective, blending psychology with ritualized language. Ancient magicians harnessed human perception as a weapon. Chapter 17. The mummy of Pharaoh Seti I carried warnings of vengeance on thieves. Tomb chambers created mold and released toxic spores. Fear, combined with real biological threats, made the curses terrifying. Ancient Egyptians mastered a mix of architecture, chemistry, and superstition to protect treasures. Chapter 18. Greek athletes sometimes cursed rivals with lead tablets hidden under arenas. Inscribed curses promised pain or defeat. Some compounds in the ink were mildly toxic. Science confirms that small physical hazards combined with psychological fear made curses more than just words. They were warnings you could literally feel. Chapter 19. The medieval Black Book of Magic contained curses to control enemies. Some rituals used poisonous herbs, accidentally causing illness. Fear magnified effects, making victims attribute misfortune to magic rather than chemistry. Ancient witches combined observation and superstition to create believable, potent threats. Chapter 20. In ancient Rome, gladiators sometimes invoked curses on opponents. Carvings in arenas promised pain or death for rivals. Archaeologists find residues of toxic plants in ritual areas, suggesting curses were partly chemical. The combination of psychology, superstition, and minor toxins ensured the threats felt real, blending fear with early science. Chapter 21. In ancient Egypt, workers left graffiti warning others not to steal from tombs. Some walls included curses invoking death or disease. Microbiologists note that sealed tombs often contained mold and bacteria. The combination of biological hazards and psychological fear made the warnings terrifyingly effective, turning simple inscriptions into deadly deterrents. Chapter 22. The curse of the Sumerian king was said to strike rulers who misused power. Clay tablets warned of illness, misfortune, and early death. Modern researchers suggest stress and fear amplified real health issues. Ancient curses often blended societal rules with biological and psychological effects, making superstition a powerful enforcement tool. Chapter 23. Vikings sometimes buried weapons with curses inscribed on runestones. These curses promised pain or death to grave robbers. Archaeologists find traces of toxic compounds on some stones, possibly to repel intruders. The combination of spiritual threat and real chemical danger ensured curses were both believable and effective. Chapter 24. In Japan, samurai families sometimes placed curses in shrines to protect secrets. Written prayers and symbolic objects were believed to invoke spirits. Cultural studies show that fear of curses reinforced loyalty and obedience, demonstrating how belief itself can influence behavior and social order without any real magic. Chapter 25. The tomb of Pharaoh Amenhotep II warned of death for thieves. Scientists discovered sealed air pockets that fostered mold growth. Toxic spores could cause hallucinations or illness. Ancient Egyptians combined architecture, psychology, and biology to make curses real, blending science with superstition to protect their rulers' legacies. Chapter 26. Ancient Greek athletes cursed opponents with hidden lead tablets. Names and misfortune were inscribed, often promising defeat or injury. Some inks contained toxic metals, which could cause mild poisoning. The curses combined superstition, chemistry, and psychology, making them more than symbolic. They were a real warning. Chapter 27. In medieval Europe, alchemists sometimes cursed rivals using poisonous herbs. Spells promised misfortune or death. Scientific analysis shows some rituals involved toxic plants that could harm victims. Fear amplified these effects, turning superstition into a tool that exploited both human psychology and real-world danger. Chapter 28. The mummy of Pharaoh Ramesses III warned grave robbers of curses. Tomb chambers sealed tightly, creating moldy, toxic environments. Biological hazards combined with paintings of wrathful gods made curses terrifying. Ancient Egyptians engineered fear scientifically, showing that a curse could be both mystical and physically dangerous. Chapter 29. In Peru, Inca rulers placed figurines in tombs to curse thieves. Some rituals used toxic plants that could cause illness or hallucinations. The combination of visual warning, superstition, and minor chemical danger ensured tombs remained protected, showing the Inca understood fear as a real, enforceable defense. Chapter 30. Ancient Roman curse tablets often targeted rivals for revenge or harm. Archaeologists find traces of irritating chemicals used to enhance the effect. Belief in curses heightened stress, which worsened health. These tablets blended psychology, superstition, and minor science, making threats feel real even without supernatural power. Chapter 31. In Egypt, curses were inscribed on papyri to punish thieves. Some spells mentioned sickness or sudden death. Researchers suggest psychological fear combined with spores in tombs made these warnings effective. The combination of biology and belief meant curses could influence minds and bodies, protecting treasures long after the pharaoh's deaths. Chapter 32. The curse of the Great Pyramid warned intruders of misfortune. Ancient texts describe illness, accidents, or death. Modern science shows tombs. Sealed air contained mold and bacteria, explaining many deaths. The legend grew faster than the pathogens, proving fear amplifies real-world risks. Chapter 33. In Mesopotamia, cuneiform tablets recorded curses for thieves or traitors. The text threatened disease or lifelong misfortune. Studies suggest stress from belief weakened victims' health. Ancient curses often used psychology as a weapon, blending culture, superstition, and subtle science in ways that still fascinate historians. Chapter 34. Greek depictions cursed rivals with misfortune. Lead tablets named enemies and invoked divine wrath. Some inks contained toxic metals that could irritate skin. The physical danger reinforced psychological fear, showing that curses were designed to influence both body and mind, making superstition tangible. Chapter 35. The curse of the Hope Diamond reportedly struck owners with tragedy. Some suffered accidents or personal losses. Historians note coincidence played a role, but fear magnified misfortune. Human imagination transformed ordinary events into legendary curses, blending psychology, history, and superstition. Chapter 36. Vikings carved runestones warning trespassers. Some inscriptions invoked spirits for protection. Chemical analysis suggests certain pigments may have been toxic. Combining fear, symbolism, and minor physical danger, these curses acted as both spiritual deterrent and practical security, demonstrating early knowledge of psychology and chemistry. Chapter 37. Medieval witches were accused of cursing crops and livestock. Some herbs used in rituals were toxic, accidentally harming victims. Fear amplified effects, making misfortune seem magical. Superstition and science intertwined, creating curses that were partly chemical, partly psychological, but fully terrifying. Chapter 38. The mummy of Ramses II contained warnings of wrathful gods. Tombs, sealed chambers created mold and gases causing sickness. Ancient Egyptians combined biology and belief, ensuring curses had both real and mystical consequences. Fear became a tool, scientifically enhanced by environmental hazards. Chapter 39. Japanese Ofuda scrolls were used to curse enemies or protect families. Written prayers invoked spirits, but fear amplified their effect. Anthropologists suggest social control was a main purpose. Belief in invisible forces could influence behavior, showing how culture turns superstition into practical psychological power. Chapter 40. Roman gladiators sometimes invoked curses on opponents. Clay tablets buried under arenas promised defeat or harm. Residues of toxic plants were sometimes present. The mix of superstition, psychology, and minor chemistry made these curses feel real, proving fear can be engineered as effectively as physical threats. Chapter 41. In ancient Egypt, workers carved warnings inside tombs, invoking death for thieves. Microbes and mold inside sealed chambers caused illness. The combination of biological danger and psychological fear made curses frighteningly effective. Tombs became protected not only by walls, but by science humans didn't fully understand, making superstition real. Chapter 42. Babylonian amulets were used to transfer curses to enemies. Tiny symbols promised sickness or misfortune. Some amulets contained heavy metals, subtly harming the wearer. Ancient people unknowingly combined chemistry and superstition, creating curses that could influence both mind and body, demonstrating an early, practical understanding of fear's power. Chapter 43. The curse of King Tut gained fame after his tomb's discovery. Many explorers fell ill, some dying unexpectedly. Scientists suggest bacterial spores caused infections. Fear amplified effects, creating a legendary curse. Ancient tombs turned natural hazards into supernatural stories, blending history, biology, and psychology into unforgettable myths. Chapter 44. Celtic warriors left stones warning enemies with curses. Inscriptions promised pain, death, or misfortune. Some sites show traces of toxic plants. Fear and physical risk combined, making curses practical as well as mystical. Ancient people understood the power of belief and biology together, proving fear was more than superstition. Chapter 45. Inca tombs sometimes contained figurines with curses. Toxic plants used in rituals could harm intruders. Visual symbols and superstition amplified fear, turning simple warnings into real threats. The Incas mastered psychological defense, showing how belief and environment combined to enforce protection, long before modern science. Chapter 46. Greek tombs featured curse tablets called depictions. Lead tablets named enemies and promised misfortune. Toxic inks occasionally caused irritation or illness. Ancient Greeks understood that combining words, symbols, and minor chemical hazards made threats feel real, blending psychology, superstition, and early science. Chapter 47. The curse of the Koh-i-Noor diamond brought misfortune to royal owners. Some suffered accidents, political troubles, or personal loss. Historians argue coincidence played a role, but fear and legend amplified misfortune. Humans assign meaning to events, transforming ordinary occurrences into legendary curses over time. Chapter 48. Vikings carved runestones invoking spirits to protect graves. Some pigments were mildly toxic, deterring intruders physically. Fear, symbolism, and chemical hazard combined, creating curses that were practical, spiritual, and psychologically effective. Ancient societies weaponized belief alongside minor science to protect sacred places. Chapter 49. Medieval Europe accused witches of cursing livestock and crops. Toxic herbs in rituals sometimes harmed people accidentally. Fear amplified the effect, making superstitions believable. Psychology and biology combined, creating curses that were real in effect if not supernatural, showing the science hidden behind folklore. Chapter 50. Pharaoh Ramesses III's tomb warned thieves of punishment. Sealed chambers contained mold and gases causing sickness. Paintings depicted angry gods. Biological hazards and superstition worked together, making curses terrifying. Ancient Egyptians designed threats that blended environment, belief, and early scientific understanding, proving that fear itself could be engineered. Chapter 51. In ancient Egypt, papyri warned thieves of death or sickness. Sealed tombs often contained mold and toxic spores. Psychological fear combined with real biological danger made curses frighteningly effective. Pharaohs used architecture, art, and science to ensure their warnings felt deadly, blending superstition with early forms of protection. Chapter 52. The curse of the Great Pyramid promised misfortune to intruders. Ancient texts warned of accidents or illness. Modern studies show sealed air pockets contained mold and bacteria, explaining some deaths. Fear amplified the effect, turning natural hazards into supernatural legends, proving human imagination enhances belief. Chapter 53. Mesopotamian clay tablets recorded curses for traitors or thieves. Threats of disease or misfortune were common. Stress and fear from these warnings could worsen real health conditions. Ancient curses combined psychology, social control, and early knowledge of natural danger, showing superstition could have measurable effects. Chapter 54. Greek depictions used lead tablets to curse enemies. Names and threats were inscribed, sometimes with toxic metals. Physical irritation reinforced psychological fear, proving that curses were both symbolic and real. Ancient people understood the power of combining words, chemicals, and belief to influence others. Chapter 55. The curse of the Hope diamond struck owners with tragedy or misfortune. Some experienced accidents or loss. Historians suggest coincidence amplified by fear created legendary stories. Human imagination transformed ordinary events into myths, showing how superstition and psychology intertwine with history. Chapter 56. Viking runestones warned trespassers with curses. Inscriptions invoked spirits, while some pigments contained mild toxins. Fear, symbolism, and chemical risk combined, making curses practical and spiritual. Ancient societies effectively used belief and minor science to protect sacred sites and valuables. Chapter 57. Medieval witches were accused of cursing crops and livestock. Ritual herbs sometimes caused accidental poisoning. Fear magnified effects, making superstitions believable. Combining psychology and biology, curses could be real in outcome even without supernatural power, showing science hidden in folklore. Chapter 58. The mummy of Ramses II carried warnings of wrathful gods. Sealed tombs produced mold and toxic gases. Biological hazards amplified psychological fear, making curses feel real. Ancient Egyptians engineered threats using architecture, chemistry, and superstition, proving fear could be systematically created. Chapter 59. Japanese Ofuda scrolls cursed enemies or protected families. Written prayers invoked spirits, but fear amplified impact. Social control was a key purpose, influencing behavior without physical intervention. Belief in unseen forces shows how culture converts superstition into practical psychological power. Chapter 60. Roman gladiators used curses on rivals. Clay tablets promised harm or defeat. Traces of toxic plants enhanced effect. Superstition, psychology, and minor chemistry combined to make curses feel real. Ancient people engineered fear as effectively as physical threats, blending human perception with minimal science. Chapter 61. Egyptian tombs often carried warnings of death or disease for thieves. Sealed chambers contained mold and toxic spores. Fear and real biological hazards combined, making curses frighteningly effective. Pharaohs engineered architecture, art, and ritual to protect treasures, proving that superstition and early science could work together as powerful deterrents. Chapter 62. The curse of Tutankhamun haunted explorers after the tomb's discovery. Many fell ill or died unexpectedly. Bacterial spores trapped in tombs likely caused infections. Legends grew faster than pathogens, showing how fear and imagination amplify danger, turning natural causes into legendary curses. Chapter 63. Babylonian clay tablets recorded curses for traitors and thieves. Texts threatened illness or lifelong misfortune. Stress and fear often worsened victims' health. Ancient people combined psychology, social rules, and natural hazards to make curses real, showing superstition could have practical effects on human behavior. Chapter 64. Greek depictions were lead tablets inscribed with enemies' names. Toxic metals and inks sometimes caused mild harm. Words and chemical irritation reinforced psychological fear. Curses were more than symbolic. They blended language, superstition, and early science to influence minds and bodies simultaneously. Chapter 65. The curse of the Hope Diamond brought accidents and misfortune to its owners. Coincidences, stress, and fear amplified stories over time. Human imagination transformed ordinary misfortune into legendary curses, blending history, psychology, and superstition into a single, compelling narrative. Chapter 66. Viking runestones warned intruders with curses invoking spirits. Pigments sometimes contained mild toxins, adding physical risk. Fear, symbolism, and chemical hazard combined to protect graves and treasures. Ancient societies understood that belief could be weaponized alongside minor science. Chapter 67. Medieval Europe accused witches of cursing crops and livestock. Ritual herbs were occasionally toxic, causing accidental harm. Fear magnified these incidents, making superstitions believable. Psychology and biology combined to create curses that were real in effect, even without supernatural intervention. Chapter 68. Ramses II's tomb warned thieves of divine wrath. Sealed chambers fostered mold and gases causing sickness. Biological hazards reinforced psychological fear, making curses terrifying. Ancient Egyptians engineered threats using architecture, chemistry, and belief, proving that fear could be deliberately constructed. Chapter 69. Japanese Ofuda scrolls were used to curse enemies or protect families. Written prayers invoked spirits, but fear amplified their effect. Social control was a key function, showing how belief in unseen forces influences behavior without any physical intervention, turning superstition into practical power. Chapter 70. Roman gladiators invoked curses on rivals with clay tablets. Traces of toxic plants enhanced fear. Superstition, psychology, and minor chemistry combined to make curses feel real. Ancient societies engineered fear as effectively as physical threats, demonstrating that human perception and minimal science can create legendary legends. Chapter 71. Egyptian tombs frequently warned of death or disease for intruders. Mold and toxic spores in sealed chambers posed real danger. Psychological fear combined with biological risk, making curses frighteningly effective. Pharaohs used architecture, art, and ritual together, showing superstition and early science could enforce protection. Chapter 72. The Curse of King Tutankhamun haunted explorers after the tomb's discovery. Many fell ill, some dying suddenly. Bacterial spores trapped inside tombs likely caused infections. Fear amplified effects, turning natural hazards into legendary curses and proving imagination can make danger feel supernatural. Chapter 73. Babylonian clay tablets recorded curses against traitors and thieves. They threatened illness, misfortune, or early death. Stress from belief often worsened health outcomes. Ancient curses combined psychology, social control, and natural hazards, demonstrating that superstition could influence both behavior and physical well-being. Chapter 74. Greek depictions were lead tablets inscribed with names and threats. Some inks contained toxic metals, causing irritation or sickness. Physical hazards and words reinforced fear, proving that curses were more than symbolic. Ancient people understood how superstition and minor science could influence minds and bodies. Chapter 75. The curse of the Hope Diamond caused accidents, misfortune, and personal tragedy. Coincidence combined with stress and fear amplified stories. Human imagination transformed ordinary events into legendary curses, blending history, psychology, and superstition into compelling narratives that persist for centuries. Chapter 76. Viking runestones warned intruders with curses invoking spirits. Pigments sometimes contained mild toxins, adding physical danger. Fear, symbolism, and chemical hazard combined to protect graves and treasures. Ancient societies understood that belief, when combined with small scientific risks, could effectively enforce security. Chapter 77. Medieval Europe accused witches of cursing crops, livestock, and rivals. Ritual herbs sometimes caused accidental poisoning. Fear amplified effects, making superstition believable. Psychology and biology combined, creating curses that could have real consequences, even without supernatural intervention. Chapter 78. The tomb of Ramses II warned thieves of divine wrath. Sealed chambers fostered mold and gases causing sickness. Biological hazards amplified fear, making curses terrifying. Ancient Egyptians engineered threats using architecture, chemistry, and belief, proving that fear could be deliberately crafted to protect treasures. Chapter 79. Japanese Ofuda scrolls were used to curse enemies or protect families. Written prayers invoked spirits, but fear enhanced the effect. Social control was a key goal, showing how belief in unseen forces can shape behavior, turning superstition into practical psychological power. Chapter 80. Roman gladiators invoked curses on rivals through clay tablets. Traces of toxic plants enhanced fear and credibility. Superstition, psychology, and minor chemistry combined to make curses feel real. Ancient societies engineered fear effectively, blending human perception, legend, and minimal science into powerful deterrents. Chapter 81. Egyptian tombs often warned intruders of death or disease. Mold and toxic spores in sealed chambers posed real threats. Psychological fear combined with biological risk, making curses terrifyingly effective. Pharaohs used architecture, art, and ritual to enforce protection, showing superstition and early science could work together. Chapter 82. The curse of Tutankhamun struck explorers after the tomb's opening. Many fell ill, some dying suddenly. Trapped bacterial spores likely caused infections. Fear amplified the legend, turning natural hazards into tales of supernatural punishment and proving how imagination magnifies danger. Chapter 83. Babylonian clay tablets threatened traitors or thieves with misfortune, sickness, or death. Stress from belief worsened real health outcomes. Ancient curses combined psychology, social control, and natural hazards, proving that superstition could influence behavior and physical well-being alike. Chapter 84. Greek depictions were lead tablets naming enemies and predicting harm. Some inks contained toxic metals causing irritation or mild illness. Physical risk and psychological fear reinforced each other. Ancient curses blended words, superstition, and minor science, making threats feel real and tangible. Chapter 85. The curse of the Hope Diamond brought accidents, financial ruin, and personal tragedy. Coincidence, stress, and fear amplified the legend. Human imagination transformed ordinary events into legendary curses, blending history, psychology, and superstition into enduring stories of misfortune. Chapter 86. Viking runestones warned trespassers with curses invoking spirits. Pigments sometimes contained mild toxins. Fear, symbolism, and chemical hazard combined to protect graves and treasures. Early societies understood that belief could be weaponized alongside minor scientific threats. Chapter 87. Medieval Europe accused witches of cursing livestock, crops, and rivals. Ritual herbs occasionally caused accidental poisoning. Fear magnified the effect, making superstition believable. Psychology and biology combined, creating curses that were real in effect even without supernatural power. Chapter 88. Ramses II's tomb warned thieves of divine wrath. Sealed chambers produced mold and gases causing sickness. Biological hazards amplified psychological fear, making curses terrifying. Egyptians engineered threats with architecture, chemistry, and belief, proving fear could be deliberately constructed. Chapter 89. Japanese Ofuda scrolls cursed enemies or protected families. Written prayers invoked spirits, but fear enhanced their effect. Social control was a key function, showing how belief in unseen forces influenced behavior and turned superstition into practical psychological power. Chapter 90. Roman gladiators invoked curses on rivals using clay tablets. Traces of toxic plants reinforced fear. Superstition, psychology, and minor chemistry combined to make curses feel real. Ancient societies engineered fear as effectively as physical threats, blending perception, legend, and minimal science into powerful deterrents. Chapter 91. Egyptian tombs carried warnings of death or disease for thieves. Mold and toxic spores in sealed chambers posed real hazards. Psychological fear amplified the danger, making curses effective. Pharaohs combined architecture, art, and ritual, showing superstition and early science could enforce protection with lasting impact. Chapter 92. The Curse of Tutankhamun haunted explorers after the tomb's discovery. Many became ill or died unexpectedly. Bacterial spores trapped inside tombs likely caused infections. Fear magnified effects, turning natural hazards into legendary curses and proving imagination can amplify danger. Chapter 93. Babylonian clay tablets threatened thieves and traitors with illness or misfortune. Belief-induced stress worsened real health outcomes. Ancient curses combined psychology, social enforcement, and natural hazards, showing superstition could directly influence human behavior and well-being. Chapter 94. Greek depictions were lead tablets inscribed with enemies' names. Toxic metals in inks caused irritation or illness. Words and chemical hazards reinforced psychological fear. Curses blended superstition, minor science, and language, making threats tangible and believable. Chapter 95. The curse of the Hope Diamond caused accidents, financial loss, and personal tragedy. Stress, fear, and coincidence amplified the legend. Human imagination transformed ordinary events into enduring curses, mixing history, psychology, and superstition into compelling stories. Chapter 96. Viking runestones warned intruders with curses invoking spirits. Some pigments contained mild toxins. Fear, symbolism, and chemical hazard combined to protect graves and treasures. Early societies effectively weaponized belief alongside minor science to enforce security. Chapter 97. Medieval Europe accused witches of cursing crops, livestock, and rivals. Ritual herbs sometimes caused accidental poisoning. Fear amplified effects, making superstition believable. Psychology and biology combined, creating curses that were real even without supernatural power. Chapter 98. Ramses II's tomb warned thieves of divine punishment. Sealed chambers contained mold and gases causing sickness. Biological hazards reinforced fear, making curses terrifying. Ancient Egyptians engineered threats using architecture, chemistry, and belief to protect treasures. Chapter 99. Japanese Ofuda scrolls cursed enemies or protected families. Written prayers invoked spirits, but fear enhanced their effect. Social control was a key function, showing belief in unseen forces can influence behavior and turn superstition into practical power. Chapter 100. Roman gladiators invoked curses on rivals with clay tablets. Traces of toxic plants reinforced fear and credibility. Superstition, psychology, and minor chemistry combined to make curses feel real. Ancient societies engineered fear as effectively as physical threats, blending perception, legend, and minimal science into powerful deterrents. Those were 100 facts about ancient curses. History shows us that fear, belief, and a little science could create legends that last thousands of years. If you enjoyed this journey into the mysterious and the deadly, don't forget to like, subscribe, and explore more stories with us.